The husband threw his noisy daughter on the highway, resulting in the death of her daughter in a car accident. He said that if I hadn't had to go to that broken shift, my daughter wouldn't have clamored to get off because she couldn't see me. I am the culprit of my daughter's death. I am very sad and live in guilt all day long. I question myself every day that I am not a qualified mother. I was constantly exhausted and seriously depressed. I was forced to commit suicide by my husband. After being rescued by my mother, my mood gradually stabilized, until I found out that my husband threw his daughter on the highway to see his pregnant cheating partner. 1. When I rushed to the hospital, my daughter's face was already covered with a white cloth. Zhao Qi slapped me fiercely. What are you doing here? Go to your shift, hold your meeting and get promoted. Do you still need this house? Our daughter is dead. She was killed by you. My face was hot, but I didn't feel any pain at all. I stared at the little figure lying on the hospital bed covered with white cloth. I can't believe that lying inside is my daughter who spoiled me and made trouble with me in the morning. I suddenly lifted the white cloth, revealing my daughter's pale and bloodless face. I grabbed the white cloth and trembled. Every time I breathed, my lungs seemed to be cut by a knife. After all, I couldn't stand it. I hugged her and cried bitterly. What's the use of crying now? No matter how much your daughter begged you in the morning, you refused to accompany her to the amusement park. Now you know you're going to cry. My mother hugged me and cried bitterly. After a while, she stood up and stared at her scarlet eyes and asked Zhao Qi, "What the hell is going on?" In the face of his mother-in-law's questioning, Zhao Qi was not as aggressive as he was to me. His eyes wandered and hestered and said, "As soon as Meng Meng got on the car, she clamored for her mother. No matter how I explained to her, my mother was busy and she didn't listen. I already have a migraine, so I have to take her to the amusement park. I was annoyed by her, so I stopped the car to let her calm down. Who knew that she opened the car door and ran away by herself? I was also angry at that time, thinking that there was a service area in front of me and nothing could happen. I also wanted to educate her, so I drove away. Who knew what would happen later? Every time I hear a sentence, my heart seems to be cut by a knife. After listening to what he said, my heart is already bleeding." My mother stood up and said incredulously, "Then you can throw a 5-year-old child and run away on the highway." "Mom, you don't know. She is so annoying that I don't know who is spoiled. It's like you can't understand human speech. No matter how you say it, you can't listen to it and you can't coax it. I have a migraine. What can I do?" When my mother-in-law heard that her son was being criticized, she stood up and scolded my mother. "Why are you talking to my son so loudly? Who can be blamed for such a thing? She has a mother. It was her mother who didn't take good care of her. My son is not feeling well. I have to accompany her to the amusement park. What was her mother doing at that time? She is making money and raising a family. She doesn't make money. Do you big people rely on your waste son?" When my mother heard my mother-in-law accuse me, she couldn't help speaking for me. "If you love money so much, it's okay for her to go with Qian. What kind of marriage and children will she have? Kill all the children for money." The voice of their argument surrounds my ears, and I don't want to pay attention to it at all. All I know now is that my daughter is dead, and my favorite daughter is gone. I will never see her again. 2. After seeing my daughter off for the last journey, I couldn't sleep for a long time. When I was awake, I looked at every inch of the house, and there were traces of my daughter's life. When I closed my eyes, it was my daughter's pale face. I could no longer fall asleep, even if my body was overwhelmed. After falling asleep, I would dream of my daughter crying and being isolated on the highway, and I woke up immediately. Every time Zhao Qi saw me like this, there was no comfort or understanding, only abuse. What he said to me was like quenching poison. "When my daughter was alive, you didn't treat her well. Now that she is dead, who do you pretend to be like this?" I ignored him. I hated him. I hated him for leaving my poor daughter on the highway like this. I can't forgive him, but I can't forgive myself for why I neglected my daughter because of work. I regretted it countless times. On that day, I should have put down the financing meeting and accompanied my daughter to the amusement park she had been waiting for a long time. I believe that he also loved his daughter and was immersed in the grief of his daughter's death that he treated me like that after her death. He must miss his daughter very much. And I no longer have the extra strength to investigate with him, argue with him and defend myself. My daughter's death has completely broken me. I have tried my best just to live. Just as I was hiding in the darkroom with my daughter's photo in my arms, he came back from outside and saw me like this. He is shaggy and untidy, not like a person. He tore open the curtains, snatched the picture frame in my hand, and fell to the ground fiercely. The splashed fragments crossed my cheeks. I stared blankly at the photos on the ground. My daughter was once again fragmented just like this picture frame. How long will you be going to play? Don't you love your company the most? Didn't you even want your daughter for the sake of the company? Now my daughter has been killed by you. You have time to spend time with your daughter, don't you? You want to accompany her so much. Then you go to hell. You go downstairs to accompany her. Listening to Zhao Qi's words, my longing for my daughter has reached its peak. Yes, I can see my daughter when I die. I grabbed a large piece of broken glass on the ground and cut it into my hand fiercely. Cut hard, as if the harder you cut, the closer my daughter will be to me. My body is getting colder and colder, and my eyes are getting more and more confused. I seem to see my daughter waning to me. When I woke up again, I was lying in the hospital, with my mother crying and red eyes in front of me. Good daughter, why are you so stupid? Don't you want your mother? If it hadn't been for my mother's panic to see you, I wouldn't have known that you had done something stupid. You promised Mom that you were fine, okay? Mom, I can't get better. I can't get better in my life. After being released from the hospital, my mother took me to see a psychiatrist. I was diagnosed with depression, and the doctor advised me to move out of my original residence to avoid injury. That I don't want to. I can't stay where there is no daughter. But my mother cried and hugged me and begged me. Mom can't be without a daughter. If you are gone, how can you let your mother live? My mother's tears hit my heart one by one. Yes, I still have my mother. I can't bear the pain of losing my daughter at all. I can't let her try such pain. I accepted my mother's advice and went home with her to stay away from the original environment. Under my mother's care, I followed the doctor's instructions and took good medicine. The days passed day by day. Under my mother's careful care, my condition improved. Until one day I received a phone call, which made my hardworking stable mood collapse again. 3. It was the sale of used cars that called me. He said that a young girl drove Zhao Qi's car to sell a few days ago. It was not cleaned up before driving there, and the driving recorder in the car was still running. The car was in my name. The person from the intermediary company found me, said that the information in the driving recorder was still there, and asked me whether to leave those data or destroy it. That I stepped out of the house that I hadn't stepped out for 2 months and personally picked up the memory card. I plugged the memory card into the computer, and adjusted it to the day when Mingming had an accident. I know that my behavior is very irrational now, which is completely contrary to the doctor's advice. But I really want my daughter, even if I listen to her voice again. I turned on the driving recorder with trembling hands, but I saw a scene that made my eyes crack and heard a voice that made me angry. Dad, we can go another day. I want to go with Mom. The daughter's voice was soft and calm. She was not as noisy as Zhao Qi said. On the contrary, she was emotionally stable and well-behaved and sensible. I've brought you out. What else do you want? It's as difficult to serve as your mother. At this time, Zhao Qi's impatient voice. Husband, is it true that you said you would come to see me and the baby today at this time? A strange and sweet young woman's voice sounded. It's like WeChat is connected to the Bluetooth in the car, and accidentally clicked on the external playback of the voice. Then the car began to shake slightly, as if Zhao Qi pressed the voice in a panic. Dad, who is this sister and who is the baby? Don't care so much, kid. Go back and sit down. Zhao Qi scolded angrily. I heard it. That sister called you husband. Why did she call you husband? Didn't her mother call you? Mengming's voice is a little angry. At this time the car was still driving, but Mengming's voice did not stop. She can't call you husband. Only Mom can call you husband. I'll tell my mother when I get back. Mingming, I warn you, don't let Mom know about today's events. Did you hear that? Zhao Qi's voice was full of oppression. I have never heard him talk like this to Mingming. I'll just say it, I'll say it. You have a baby. You don't like Mingming anymore. I'm going back and telling my mother. Suddenly there was a harsh break sound, the sound of the door opening, accompanied by a cute cry, and Zhao Qi's angry scolding. You have to tell your mother. Then don't go home. Then the sound of the door opening continued to sound, closed, and the car continued to drive. Mingming's voice can no longer be heard in the car. Zhao Qi made a phone call. Hello, baby, I'm going to find you. The sweet female voice just now sounded again. Didn't you say that we would meet in the amusement park with you today? Haha, I threw her on the road. Now no one will stand in our way. Really? Great. However, she won't run back by herself. The female voice is overjoyed. It's okay. I threw it on the highway, surrounded by wilderness and ridges. There is no village in front and no shop in the back. If you get lost, you will get lost. It's better to be hit to death. 100. Don't worry, no matter what, she won't come back. Zhao Qi's voice was so cold that it made people shiver, as if he had just lost a kitten and puppy on the roadside. Oh, husband, you're really a man. It's just that you're so cruel that I'm afraid of you. What are you afraid of? You are pregnant with my son. I have a son you helped me give birth to. What should I do with that money-losing person? I don't know if it's my kind. I don't know if it's my kind of white-eyed wolf, and I only have the same heart with her mother. Wait for me and let me see if my son is old again. I miss him to death. Humph. He has worked hard to help you get pregnant, but you only think of him. I can't hear the flirting behind me. My hands are holding the mouse tightly, and my body is constantly shaking. My heart is boiling like magma, and it will gush out in the next second. My Meng, if you don't want to see me, open the car door and run on the highway by yourself. She was thrown on the highway by Zhao Qi and her biological father. I can't imagine how scared my poor daughter, my 5-year-old daughter, a small person, when she was abandoned when she chased the speeding car on the deserted highway, would be so scared, and how painful it would be when she was hit by a car. Zhao Qi, this bitch and that bitch, they killed my daughter. How can a divorce be enough? I want him, I want his family, his bastard, all die. After my daughter passed away, my mind has never been as clear as it is now. The anger of revenge is burning in my heart. I don't care about anything. All I know is that as long as this dog man and woman live in this world one day, my Meng can't rest in peace for a day, and I can't close my eyes for a day. That I'm going to make this pair of dog men and women pay the price. It's too easy to find this woman. She is high profile, brainless, and discloses her life in great detail on a video software. I looked through all the video software she sent. Welcome to watch the 18-year-old pregnant woman raising the baby in the city V. The husband was anxious to see Xiao San, and threw his daughter on the highway 39,103-inch logo. Uncle said, it looks like a son, I don't want to have a daughter. What if she steals my uncle from me in the future? An 18-year-old pregnant woman gave birth to a son for her favorite uncle at the best age. Although the uncle has a wife, I know that I am the main palace. His woman will only give birth to a daughter, but I am pregnant with a son. He loves me. Every video is about her scratching her head with her pregnant belly, and the copywriting of each video makes me physiologically uncomfortable. It's hard to imagine that Zhao Qi killed my daughter for such a thing. I turned off the software, closed my eyes, took a deep breath, turned back to the room, packed my luggage, and planned to go home, back to the home with cute memories. Mengming's home, and I don't allow such things to come in and defile. I haven't been home for a month. My home has changed its appearance. On the table and on the floor there are baby products, toys, diapers, cribs. Even Zhao Qi's mother has moved here and is ready to serve the baby. 4. Seeing me standing at the door with luggage, she was so scared that the flower glue in her hand fell off. Those flower glues are treasures in my mother's collection. When I got married, she gave me one of the dowries. When I was pregnant, I ate a lot. Some of the things I paid a lot of money to get, and some were given by my mother. These are all saved as dowries for Mingming in the future. Why did you come back? Her face was quite uncomfortable, and her hands holding the tonics quickly carried them behind her. I didn't change my face. I've lived at my mother's house for a long time. It's time to go home. She smiled awkwardly. Yes, that's right. She secretly put the things back while I was not paying attention, and seemed to remember something. Yes. Your illness? All right. I heard that this disease is not easy to cure. If you can't cure it, you have to go to a mental hospital. They should be playing this plan to get me into the mental hospital, or it's better to die, so that our mother and daughter can make room for that bastard. In this way, on the day I cut my wrist, Zhao Qi forced me to move and ran out of the house on special to not send me to the hospital. He was afraid that I couldn't die, and he didn't know whether Mengming's spirit in heaven felt sorry for his mother, so he attracted her grandma to save my life. It's cured. My doctor's medical skills are quite good. As long as you take good medicine, you can control it. I saw a clear disappointment in her eyes. I pretended to ask inadvertently, I haven't seen you these days. Why is the house more messy like a garbage heap? Where do so many baby products come from? She turned her eyes in a panic. Well, the cousin of Chizi's second aunt's family is about to give birth. It's good to give birth in the city. After giving birth, they will give birth in our house. They are all relatives. I interrupted her. I don't agree. I don't like strangers to show up in my house. There are no strangers. That's Chizi's cousin. They are all real relatives. Before she finished her words, I looked straight over, and she didn't make a sound. Because she knows that the money his son spends now is all from my secondary card. Zhao Qi's work ability is not strong. After being fired by the company, he stayed at home to take care of Mengming, and I made money to support his family. She knows very well, so even if she doesn't like me, she dares not do too much for the sake of money. That's all my relatives. If there is a good family, there is no land to live in. I have to arrange a good place for her to raise her. Shall I arrange it? On what basis? That's Chizi's cousin. As a sister-in-law, you can't take good care of her. I pretended to hesitate for a moment, and then let go. It's okay. Let's talk about it when it's born. Hearing what I said, she suddenly smiled happily. This cousin had passed the way with me, and it was much more convenient to do whatever she wanted later. Sure enough, this family treats me as a fool from beginning to end. Clean up all these things. It's annoying to look at. I'm going to sleep. Don't call me if you have nothing to do. But she just wanted to refute. But it was probably because I just promised to help the cousin find a month center. She gave me some face for a while and it was not easy to refute me. I put down my words and went back to the room, closed the door, and quietly pressed against the door panel, waiting for her to report to her big son. She is not smart and won't live here for a long time. She doesn't know that there are ears across the wall, and the soundproofing at home is not very good. Sure enough, she began to call. Cheatsy, your wife is back. I don't know why she came back suddenly, but don't worry, I have told her about Afong. She promised to find a better birth center for her in a few days when Afong gives birth. Don't care what I said to her. Anyway, I have stabilized her. That is, she said that she wanted to clean up everything in the room. She looked annoying. You see, do you want to move to the hotel where Afong lives? Really, I'm dead, and I can't see a newborn baby. What a poisonous woman with a snake and scorpion heart. I listened to the increasingly weak voice and sneered. Wait, I will let you see what the real snake and scorpion woman is. After waking up, I smelled a fishy smell in the air. She should have boiled the precious flour glue that I planned to leave to Meng Meng. Unfortunately, without that cooking skill, the flour glue probably couldn't get into her mouth. I went to the kitchen and opened the cabinet. Sure enough, on the innermost side, the corner with the best appearance was cut off. If you don't look carefully, you can't see it. At this time, Su-chan came back. When she saw me open the cabinet, she felt a little guilty. Are you awake? Mom, have you touched my fish glue? Nowhere, for no reason. Why should I touch these things? That's good. These things are expensive and priceless in the market. This kind of good food is very tonic and women eat it for the most nourishing. Eat a little less, but don't touch my fish glue. I looked into her eyes and told her seriously. Her eyes flashed uncertainly and did not look directly into my eyes. Then she hesitated and said, Look at what you said. Just like anti-thief. I'm your mother-in-law. Even if you eat a few mouthfuls of fish glue, you still have to call the police. These birds' nests are also very nutritious. It costs tens of thousands of yuan per gram. If you want to eat, you can stew some birds' nests. Don't touch my fish glue. She pretended to be angry. What the hell? I don't want anything. I have to live in my son's house and be guarded by you like a thief. What a broken bird's nest. I'm not rare. At this time, Zhao Qi came back. Seeing Su-chan's angry appearance, I thought I was bullying his mother at first sight. Zhou Yan, what's wrong with you? You haven't come back for so long, and you make my mother angry as soon as you come back. Does my mother owe you? You haven't come home for so long. She has worked hard to help me take care of the housework. As soon as you come back, you have to add trouble to my mother. I don't want to say unnecessary words to him, for fear that saying 2 more words will expose my hatred. I went straight back to the room and locked the door. I didn't go back to the previous master bedroom. I lived in my daughter's room, and 2 can't bear to share a bed with that beast. I'm afraid that I can't help but kill him in the middle of the night. In this way it's too cheap for him. Since his daughter left, he has long been used to sleeping in a separate room with me. He didn't feel very strange to see me like this. Cherish it. You can't enjoy such a peaceful life for long. 5. I continue to pay attention to the social media account of Zhao Qi's little wife. Her due date is very close. Watch her latest video. My mother-in-law really cares about me. She sends me such expensive flour glue every day. Following the baby, my mother is blessed. Su-chan really didn't disappoint me. A lot of those fish glues went into Li Fang's mouth. I know her, greedy and stupid. Hearing me say that those fish glue are so precious, she will definitely care about those fish glues, and what she wants is her kind of thought. Eat it, eat it. It was originally supposed to give my daughter the fish glue, but now it has entered the belly of this bitch, which can be regarded as my daughter's own revenge. Bang bang bang. Zhou Yan, you come out. Come out quickly. I have something to ask you. I rubbed my face and the good play was about to start. I opened the door and said, What's going on? What's going on? I also want to ask you what's going on. Why is this card frozen? What have you done? Zhao Qi pinched the secondary card I gave him and threw it to the ground fiercely. My face turned pale in an instant and I muttered, so fast will it freeze. He saw something was wrong, like holding my shoulder, and I turned around to dodge. Say, what's going on? How could it be frozen? I pretended to be without a master, and tears slipped in an instant. My company had an accident. That round of financing failed and went bankrupt. All my money has been trapped, and I'm bankrupt. I also owe a lot of debts. What? Then what should I do? Waste. I have wasted so many years on you, and now you say bankruptcy is bankruptcy. Divorce. Divorce now. Don't want to touch my side with the debt you caused. I pretended to be panicked. You can't leave me like this. We are husband and wife. We should go through the difficulties together. Seryu, for so many years I have paid enough for you. You don't want to lie to me and put the rest of my life on it. Now, go to the Civil Affairs Bureau for divorce immediately. I pretended to be powerless to resist, and he pulled me downstairs and threw me into the car. Along the way, I kept begging him not to abandon me when I was in such a difficult time. I saw determination for the first time in this indecisive man all my life. In less than half an hour, we have registered for divorce. The house I live in now, under my name, I told him that after a while the house would be taken away. He would not live for long. He quickly packed up his things and left cleanly. I know that I have to continue my play during the 30-day divorce cooling-off period. During this period, I forged a court summons, pretended to be prosecuted, and posted a circle of friends that only he could see for help. To my mutual friends who know about my situation, I will never reveal my true situation, and then ask my company's partner to pretend to collect debts to him in a series of operations. He believed my bankruptcy and debt. Therefore, as soon as the divorce cooling-off period ended, he quickly called me to get the divorce certificate. I was not busy during this period. After the divorce, I knew that a long time ago, he had secretly bought a house with my money, and now the family of 3 lives in that house. The woman posted a video on the social platform every day to show her new home. And the supporting text. Uncle finally divorced the old woman. True love will win in the end. And all the grievances are worth it. I know that the money in Zhao Qi's hand is all private money secretly saved with my secondary card. And the amount should not be small. I know this money. He can divorce so happily with the money in his hand. He is afraid that my financial situation will not be able to keep the money. I also deliberately asked him to keep the money. Without money, how could he enter the bureau I carefully prepared for him? Point 6. He has always been confident in his ability, and has always believed that a villain plotted to kill him when he was fired by the company. When I was with him, when I saw my investment, I also felt that I could do it and he must be better. Now it's finally his turn to show his strength. He began to invest, but he didn't know that the project he invested in was carefully prepared for him. This project has obvious loopholes, which is a huge scam. But anyone who has done a field trip will be cautious. But I know him. I am blindly confident and soft-hearted. After listening to a few flattery words, I can be so proud that I can't find the north. Therefore, he invested all his money in this project. In order to get greater profits, he even borrowed a lot of money from usurers and fell into it step by step. After the money was sent out, the agent didn't know where he had gone. Of course, I also found that agent to accompany him to act in this big play, so naturally there was no such person. Later, the agent ran away with money, and the money eventually went into my pocket. Zhao Qi secretly saved money for so many years. Overnight it was all gone and he was in debt. His creditor has a terrible reputation. It's not a kind man who trusts a woman. The debt collection method is extremely fierce. If they can't pay off the debt, they can do everything. As long as Zhao Qi doesn't come forward, his end will not be good. I still have one very important thing to do before the creditor comes to the door. I filed a lawsuit, claiming that Zhao Qi's current house was bought during marriage, and his marital infidelity was the fault of our marriage. I can also recover all the money he spent on Li Fang. Thanks to Li Fang, who loves to share her life, her uncle gave her every penny and every gift she gave her. She has to send a video to show every red envelope she sends. Now, all of these have become evidence of Zhao Qi's cheating. The lawyer I hired is the best in the industry. It's easy to win this lawsuit and I want to win everything. Now Zhao Qi's mother, and Li Fang with a big belly have been kicked out of the house. On the day they were driven away, I specially went to visit them. As soon as Su Chun saw me, he came up and bit me like a mad dog. You bitch! Why drive us away? This house belongs to my son, and he will leave it to my grandson in the future. Why did you take it away? I looked at Su Chun, who was jumping up and down like a clown, and sneered. Because your son is incompetent, because he is nothing, just because you have lived on me for so many years. I looked at Li Fang fixedly. This was the first time I had seen this woman with my own eyes. She pouted and hid behind Zhao Qi, as if she was very wronged. Zhao Qi killed my Mingming for such a woman? She also deserves it. Seeing that I looked at her unfriendlily, Zhao Qi immediately stood up and strictly blocked Li Fang behind her. What are you doing here? Don't want to hurt Fang Fang. I don't love you anymore. I love Fang Fang. Don't bother me anymore. Hearing his words, Li Fang snuggled behind him and said in a greasy voice, I know that my uncle is my hero. Zhao Qi probably had never heard of such a pursuit in his life, and suddenly felt that his image was a little higher. Isn't the shit in your brain clean? Only a woman like you can be a treasure for a waste like this. The court's verdict has been issued. Get out of here immediately within today. I was impatient to look at the group of clowns again. The law enforcement officers who followed me had already begun to do things. Soon, the things that belonged to them in the house were emptied. I didn't want the house they lived in, so I sold it immediately. Soon after these people were kicked out, Zhao Qi disappeared. because the creditor had already visited him. Now, the two of them can only live in the shabby house in Zhao Qi's hometown. I still like to observe Li Fang's social platform, but the content she posts now is far from what she posted before. She scolds her mother-in-law every day. She is pregnant with Liu Jia, her belly is so big, and she is always forced to do housework and farm work. She can't eat or drink good food. She works every day. She now prays every day that her uncle can come back early, so that she can complain to her and let her uncle love her well. Unfortunately, what she didn't know was that her uncle would never come back. 7. Zhao Qi hid for a month and was finally found on a broken boat. I watched the live broadcast in the video, and my heart was indescribably happy. He was beaten until his nose was blue and his face was swollen, and his hands were tied behind his back. He lay on the ground like a dog and wagged his tail to beg for mercy, begging for people to be lenient and give him a little more time to raise money. However, what is he? First, he doesn't have the ability to rise again, and second, he doesn't have the ability to turn against the wind. There are no valuable assets with him, so how can those people give him a chance? The amount of money Zhao Qi owes is an astronomical figure for himself, but for them, it is a bad debt that can't be collected. Naturally, he has to squeeze out his final value and kill 100. I saw clearly that his face was caught and hit hard against the wall, and soon became flesh and blood blurred. In the end, he couldn't see his facial features clearly. It was a rotten meat. At this time, he was already lying on the ground, dying. However, since those people used Zhao Qi to kill chickens and warn monkeys, they would not let him go so easily. The leader raised his foot and kicked Zhao Qi's crotch fiercely. He had no strength, snorted and spasmed on the ground. Looking at his miserable appearance, I feel indescribably happy. Meng, no matter how much pain you are, I will make him hurt 1,000 times more than you. Later, Zhao Qi was severely beaten, twisted his hands and feet, and was thrown into the river. Under such circumstances, if he can survive, it will really be his fate. I held the cute photo and watched the video with her. I don't know when I had already burst into tears. After my daughter passed away, the big stone pressing on my heart seemed to move a little. Later, this video was seen by Li Fang. Everyone with clear eyes knew that Zhao Qi was more fierce and less auspicious. The uncle she has been looking forward to can't come back. Even if he comes back, I'm afraid he can only be in his first 7. After watching this video, she was scared to give birth prematurely. She didn't go to the hospital where she originally filed. She was sent to the village health center by Su Chun. She was in pain for 2 days and 2 nights, and finally gave birth to the baby. The moment the child was born, the whole health center was shocked. He was a deformed child and extremely ugly. Even the knowledgeable medical staff have never seen this battle. Su Chun made a fuss in the health center. It was said that the health center had stolen her grandson. How could her old Zhao family give birth to such a thing? Under normal circumstances, it is impossible to give birth to such a child without warning. After all, obstetric examination is not a joke. It's just that Su Chun is greedy. I have told her not to touch my flour glue, but she won't listen. My flour glue, I can deal with it as I want. I have reminded her. It is stewed 3 times a day, and the ingredients are so rich in flour glue. Adults may be able to stand it, but babies are not so big. Li Fang gave birth prematurely and had difficulty in childbirth. She fell asleep for a day and a night. Only then did she really see her big son. She gave birth to a big son for his uncle and saw Zhao Qi's big son, who threw my daughter on the highway for him. Unfortunately, the expected child did not get much maternal love. After seeing him, Li Fang was so scared that he dreamed for several days. Finally, when he began to recover slightly, he ran away from the health center and disappeared. Leaving Su Chun with the child, he returned to the village, suffered all the white eyes and listened to all the gossip. I think she should have thought about making this child 100, but that was the only bloodline left by her son. Withan him, she probably had no hope for the rest of her life. After a while, I saw the news posted by Li Fang on the social platform again. Let's think of it as a nightmare. I'm still young. I'm only 18 years old. Everything has a chance to come back. I still have the capital to come again. Looking at Li Fang, who continued to send videos with people who had nothing to do, I sent her location to Su Chun, and the crime of abandonment was punished one by one. Li Fang's location is not big, but everyone is idle. When Su Chun came to the door, the two of them made a lot of noise. Li Fang refused to admit that the monster in Su Chun's arms was born by herself, but Su Chun called the police. DNA was not a decoration. Her 18-year-old was forced to end, and she had to carry it on her whole life. A burden. It's the same thing that the child looks scary. The most important thing is that the child's brain has been damaged, and it is impossible to have normal people's thinking and IQ, so he can only be a burden for Su Chun and Li Fang for the rest of their lives. I haven't paid attention to 2 women for a long time. I cheered up and put my energy back into my work, and I gradually got out of the pain of losing my daughter. A few months later, Li Fong, who had not seen for a long time, appeared on the legal news. The 18-year-old young mother drowned her own son. What awaits her will be the disaster of prison. At the age of 18, she should have been like a flower. In